Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Drew Brown, and my wingman, my man, the number one guy I know, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother? Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown, and we are floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots. Rumble, who's that other badass jet pilot? My man, my friend, the guy who watches my six, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother Paul? How you doing today?
Well, Commander Drew, it's good to see you. Glad to be back. We've had a little hiatus, took a little bit of break, but we're back to talk to the people that want to listen to us.
I can't wait. And you're right. We needed that little break, but I am sure glad we're back doing this show. I enjoy this show. So let's start off with this quote, and we'll put a picture of Amelia Earhart, because that's who did this. Amelia Earhart, the quote is, "The more one does and sees and feels, the more one is able to do." Once again, the more one does and sees and feels, the more one is able to do. Amelia Earhart. And Dr. Paul, we live by that. And it's because of our traveling, our knowledge, and our education, we became the people that we became. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do. Travel is good. And for those who don't know, Amelia Earhart was a famous aviatrix. She was the first woman to cross the Atlantic Ocean. And she was attempting a trip around the world where she was lost. She and another person, I forget the name, but she's in the Aviation Hall of Fame. And I think that happened around like the 1930s. But she was actually very, very famous in the United States and helped advance the aviation. There have been a lot of speculation on where she is. She's on a desert island, or she lives in New Jersey doing something. That's true. I mean, everybody's supposed to be in New Jersey. Elvis Presley's supposed to work in a transmission shop in New Jersey. It's always New Jersey. But yeah, Amelia Earhart was very, very famous and a major contributor to aviation.
Great. Well, you were talking about our hiatus, and we did do a hiatus, but we didn't. We really traveled. Katrina and I went to Portugal. We did the whole country. Dr. Paul and his wife, Kim, they went to our nation's capital, Washington, DC. And we're going to just talk a little bit about our experiences. Katrina and I flew over to Portugal. We rented a car and we did the entire country, Paul. We drove the entire country. We went from Lisbon all the way up to Porto. We drove around. We came down to the Algarve coast, which is like the hottest place to be, all the nice beaches. And we'll talk about that because I went to the most beautiful beach in the entire world. It was just voted that. And then we drove back up to Lisbon, but we saw the entire country. And you did DC, which I've been to many a times. But I got to tell you, Dr. Paul, I want to talk about a couple things. And one is, this is the first time in a very long time. Now, me being an American who is 6'5" and black, I didn't realize this, but people do look at me differently here in America. And some look at me with fear, some look at me with adulation. But when I went to Portugal, nobody looked at me, nobody cared. And it was the first time, and this might sound horrible, but when I went into a jewelry store, nobody cared that I was there. And I haven't felt that in a very long time, Dr. Paul. I can't remember the last time, actually, because just the way our culture is, when a big 6'5" black man goes into a jewelry store, they tend to look. And I always say, my mother's white Russian or white Ukrainian, my father's black from Florida. And they always say, well, you're half white. I am not half white. I am all black, because they do not follow me just halfway around the store, Paul. They follow me the entire way. But I really felt good about that. Also, Portugal had great infrastructure. The people were kind. The beaches were nice. Tell me about DC a little bit.
Yeah, DC was interesting. I hadn't really spent any time. I guess I had never spent any extensive time there ever. And I hadn't really been in that area for about 20, 25 years, really about 35 years. And it was good. It was really, really good. It puts things in perspective. I didn't realize how small it is. You drove the whole country of Portugal. I drove the entire District of Columbia, which is like from here to there, you could run it.
Yeah, but
But
with traffic, it probably took the same time.
it takes about the same amount of time, like about 6 hours to go. Distance is like, 1.4 miles. It could be 20 minutes. It could be, or it could be 2 minutes. But it was good. The weather was great. The cherry blossoms were just starting to come out. Did a lot of touring. We were visiting our daughter who was undergoing a relatively simple medical procedure, but we wanted to be up there with her, and that worked out just fine. So it was kind of a not medical tourism, but we did take tours while we were caring for someone who had some medical stuff. But it
Did
was
you
very
go to the Black? Did you go to the Black Museum?
yeah,
The
we did
history of the
they
Black
call it the Museum
Museum?
of African American History Museum. We did do that. That was about that was one day. We spent about not quite 5 hours in there, and we probably covered about 30% of it, I would say. It's about 30%. There's a lot of stuff there. If I go back again, I'll probably do the rest of it. Big edifice, you can't miss it. We did the Air and Space Museum, which I hadn't been to in about 25 years. Did that once. That
How was
was
that look?
that was nice. That was nice. I'll be honest. It's Smithsonian is great. It's very good, mostly on commercial aviation. If I had to rank them, the Naval Air Museum in Pensacola is is it just connects a little bit more with me, a lot more. That's actually an excellent museum. They're both excellent. Smithsonian's been around for decades. In fact, I think they shut it down for 2 years and just opened it up a few months ago. So it had improved from the time I'd been there before. Uh, the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida is really as good, if not better, actually.
Paul, in Portugal, what I noticed that I haven't seen in many years, the prices were actually normal. They were like American prices maybe 10, 12 years ago. So a cup of coffee would be $2 instead of six now. And I found that to be very pleasing. And
Yeah,
the weather in Portugal is amazing because it can be raining and then sun shining. As a matter of fact, they have a little thing that says if it does rain and it comes out with sunshine, that means a widower just got married.
that's interesting. A widower just got married. Could the widow just get married too, or?
I guess so, yes. I think it's equal opportunity now.
Okay, wow. What was it? Was it very windy there?
Yes, it was. We also, and we're going to show pictures of all this, of the beaches and everything. But I also went to the very bottom of Europe, the very bottom tip of Europe we went to, and that's in Portugal. And you looked it up on the map, and I was
Mhm.
worried that I was wrong because you said maybe the Rock of Gibraltar, but we did, and it was windy and the waves were huge. Let's just say you were at an airport and it was real busy, but you had to get somewhere. And there was a big, long taxi line. I mean, really long. Could be an hour wait. Do you know any other way you could get to the front of that line?
Well, yeah, I do. You could cheat your way to the front of the line, which I don't think is right. I think
How
is
can you do that?
is beyond trifling. Well, we talked about this a little earlier. Some time ago, some decades ago, I ended up at LaGuardia Airport working, and I was in a line to get a cab to my hotel. And this guy comes by in a wheelchair, and he looks familiar to me. And he goes past, and I said, "Wait a minute, I just saw this guy." And there were two lines. There's a line for, a cab line, trying to get a cab. There's one line for, I guess, ambulatory passengers, and there's another one for those who are disabled. So this guy's in his wheelchair. He's being pushed to the front. I see he gets to the end. He gets up and he gets in. Well, so what's the big deal about that? I looked at him and it took me about 20 seconds to realize, wait a minute, I just saw him. He was on my flight. You're right, maybe a little taller than you. he's about 6'6", 6'7". He had a beautiful sweater on. It looked, I didn't know if he's a professional athlete or not. He looked like somebody might be a power forward for the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
But so he's there. He's got this beautiful sweater on, and it's a sweater that you might, if they had load management and they were playing one night and they're just sitting on them, they may be wearing something like this. So who's this guy? He's getting his bags and stuff like that. I'm in line, and I see him come, and he's got the same sweater is on, but he's got a blanket over his legs. He's got his head cocked to the side. His lip is disjointed out. He's got a tongue hanging out, and it looked like he might have been drooling. And I think he might have been making a sound. And
Oh
I think
my
I see all
goodness.
this. I mean, above the airplane noise, and he goes through. And I realized, wait, that's the same guy. He could
So
be
you're
in the
telling me
Olympics.
this guy actually faked being handicapped to get a cab first?
He got a sky cap. Maybe he said, hey, here's $20,
I hope
$50
he
or
gave him
whatever.
20 bucks. You know,
And,
Dr. Paul, when I remember when I was speaking to kids, you
yeah,
know what I used to say? Everything you do in life comes back to you. And if you park in one of those handicap parking spots and you're not supposed to, keep doing it because one day somebody will give you an official license plate to park there and you'll be able to. Whatever you do comes back to you. So I hope that doesn't come back to that guy. I promise you, Dr.
yeah,
Paul.
that's a
That's
true
so
story.
strange.
That's
So
that's 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 trifling with capital T.
that's trifling with a capital T. All right. Well, our trip to DC and Portugal. Well, we're so glad to be back. Check out those badass jets we got back there. Now, Dr. Paul has an A7 back there, and I have an actual A6 that I flew. It's on display now. Does that make me old? Probably does. But that A6 524, I flew that one. And if you see the tail, it's VA-35, my squadron, the Black Panthers. But we want to thank all of you so much for watching us, all our frequent flyers. And that's the ones who listen to us and watch us on YouTube every week. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of them, Facebook. Please write us at wingmanshow.com. We have a newsletter. And this week's newsletter is going to be how to fly and enjoy Portugal. And I'll give you all the tips on flying to Portugal and having a very good time there. But thank you very much, everybody, for watching us and supporting us. And hit that subscribe button. That really does help us out. And once again, that website is wingmanshow.com. I'll put it on the screen for everybody. Wingmanshow.com. And on that website, what we have is something called the frequent flow line. And that's where you can ask Dr. Paul and I a question. Just ask us any question. And we got a question this week. All right, Dr. Paul, here's our frequent flow line question. This is a woman from Oakland, California. She's 38 years old. She was invited to a family destination wedding in Honolulu. She says she can't afford it and she really wants to go. The other question she wants to know is it cheeky for a couple to get an expensive destination wedding when maybe some of the family members can't go? Dr. Paul, I'll throw that one to you first.
Okay, she's in Oakland, California, going to Honolulu. Well, I think Southwest flies from Oakland to Honolulu. That's a possibility. I think they have reduced fares, but something she might consider asking the other family members to chip in. Just a little bit, it's, maybe, I don't know how many come, maybe everybody can give me like, 20, $25 or whatever. And I can do the rest. I'd love to come, but money is tight, and it is tight for just about everybody these days. So that's not an unusual thing. Say, hey, this is my situation. Could you help a little bit? The yes or no. So that's what I would suggest. Get a few folks to chip in, and you throw in something. I don't know what the fare is from Oakland to Honolulu these days.
I bet you it's the cheapest you can get because that's the closest you can get to Honolulu is San Francisco, Oakland to Honolulu. But let me ask you this. She also asked that question, is it cheeky? And that's a word that I learned in New Orleans. Dr. Paul, you told me it had some British background to it, but cheeky, like a lot of nerve, chutzpah.
Yeah.
Is it nervy for the family to pick a place like this?
It's cheeky. I guess you could put that. Maybe it's inadvertent. Um, So the answer could be it could be yes or no. But well, if she was say we were getting married in Oakland, then it wouldn't be a factor. But no, I don't think it's necessarily cheeky. I'd say, those who can make it, you're invited. If you can't make it, well, that's understood. Yeah, ask everybody to see if they could chip in a little bit. Make it festive without
Make it
begging.
festive.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion, Dr. Paul, is first of all, it's not your wedding. And you got to remember that. It's somebody else's wedding. And it's not cheeky because they can get married anywhere they want to. It's up to you if you want to go. Now, if you don't have the finances to go, maybe you put the little bit of finances that you do have into a present. But
Mhm.
I don't think it's irresponsible of a couple to have a wedding anywhere they want.
Mhm.
Now, Dr. Paul gave you a good idea. Maybe you can ask some certain people if we can chip in, or maybe you can get a group rate, which would be possible. But the other thing is, if you can't afford at 38 years old, I'm not being mean now, but if you can't afford at 38 years old to take a round trip from California to Honolulu, there's something else going on. There
Mhm.
might be something else going on. And if you're doing it just to save money, let me tell you something. Go to Hawaii, enjoy yourself, see the world. Sometimes you have to do a little bit extra to get a little bit more. And you might have to spend a little more than you want, but go enjoy yourself. Have a great time at the wedding. I'm sure you can make it. I'm sure you can. All right. That brings us to our famous. This is a Wingman PSA from the 11 facts in life. From fact number 6, which is good will overcome evil. Avoid these 8 deadly sins. The sin this week is greed, the curse of insatiability. Greed, the curse of insatiability. Dr. Paul, how can you wake up the next day like Bernie Madoff? He ripped off his best friends and family for $55 billion, and he woke up the next day trying to steal 56. That's called insatiability. He could never get enough. And I'll tell you something, that's got to be one of the worst things that can ever happen to you is when you can't get enough. What do you
Right.
think, Paul?
Yeah, and his ending was not that good. He died in prison, he made off with a lot of money, but he ended up with nothing at the same time.
He did. And Paul, about that story, and not to get into it too deep, but he stole from his friends and family. That's the people. And you know how we got him, which I love, and it's greed. He wouldn't let them invest. And because he wouldn't let them invest, they couldn't wait to invest. And it would be one of these things. Come on, please let me do it. Please let me do it. Anytime you can't get something, it seems like you want it more, huh?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. By invitation only, only special people are admitted here. People say, "I want to be special." You see?
That's amazing. All right, Dr. Paul, we're here to give good news. And what if I give you news about the oldest American living, a Texas woman who's 114 years old, Elizabeth Francis. She's the oldest living American. Now, when do people talk about the oldest living person? It's when they die, not us. We're not going to talk about Elizabeth when she's dying. And actually, she's the 5th oldest person on the planet. But what we're going to say is this Texas woman, Elizabeth, gave some advice on how to live. And her few words were this: treat everybody with love and thank God for what you have. How about that, Paul? She didn't die. We're not talking about her dying. We're talking about her living and giving advice for everybody else to hopefully live that long and that prosperous.
Yeah, and she's still doing it, obviously. So she's the oldest living person, in the U.S. so far, and that's accumulating, which is good.
And one of the things her daughter says, and I think her daughter was 90 something, she says, my mother used to walk every day until her mid 90s. So she did that thing that you love, that word called move.
Hmm.
Get your body in motion.
Right.
All right, another great one, Dr. Paul. You and I are Navy jet pilots. And we always say there are only two kind of pilots in the world, ones that can fly off of ships and ones that wish they could. There's somebody else who flies, and they're called astronauts. And I've always heard people say, I wish I could be an astronaut. I want to be an astronaut. How can you be an astronaut? Well, the Wingman show is going to give you that information. First of all, out of 12,000 applicants, they only pick 10. They only pick 10. But to qualify, I'll give you a website. Dr. Paul will give you a website, and we'll write it. If you watch us on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, we'll write this on the screen. USAjobs.com is the website that you can go to apply to be an astronaut. But Dr. Paul's going to give you a couple of things that you have to have before you put in that application. What are they, Dr. P?
Well, it helps a lot. There's a number of qualifications, but everything is basically STEM related. You need to be heavy in the sciences. They seem to favor engineering and biological sciences.
Well, let's tell them what STEM stands for.
Okay, I'm sorry, STEM: science, technology, engineering, and math. Science, technology, engineering, and math related degree fields. You do need a degree. If you look at the site, it's called USA. You can just go to USAjobs.com. I used to joke and say, there's certain things they're not advertising for people to be astronauts and physicists and doctors. Well, no, I can't say that anymore.
That's
because
right.
this is here. I'm looking at it right now. It's on USA Jobs. You can type in, what your job you want. Type in astronaut. Boom, this thing pops up. I'm looking at it right now. It's probably it's like 5 web pages, but you need to start with a bachelor's degree in a STEM related field.
Well, Dr. Paul,
yes.
I hate to correct you on air, but a bachelor degree is only good for somebody that is a test pilot. If you are not a test pilot, you need a master's or 2 years into your doctorate.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's correct. Yeah. So it depends on what position. There are pilot positions, flying positions, and I guess there are mission specialist positions. Those vary. They have another special one for doctors, medical doctors.
Wow.
And even so, you've got to have a certain amount of experience. If you're a pilot, you have to have a certain amount of experience. If you're a test pilot, it's better. It's so no matter where you want to enter, you've got to have a lot going on for you. You've got to have done a lot, not just say, yeah, I like to do this. Okay, fine. These are the requirements. And that's what I tell people, if you got a chance to get training in school, don't mess around in school. You don't know how long things are going to be around.
Right.
Some things are disappearing in front of our very eyes right now. So don't be too arrogant. You have a chance to get some training and education, do it. Definitely do it.
Without a doubt. And Dr. Paul, I was very lucky. To be a Navy pilot, you had to have a bachelor's degree. And back when I did it, my bachelor's degree is in business with a minor in economics. I don't believe they're taking those degrees anymore. So anybody who is interested in being a pilot, an astronaut, you have to get into STEM. You have to study science, technology, engineering, like Dr. Paul, or math. Those are the subjects you have to be. You can't be a gym teacher with a doctorate and try to be an astronaut.
Right. That's true.
But I don't think there are any other shows in the world that gives you a way to contact NASA so you can be an astronaut, is there, Dr. Paul?
I don't think so. I think we're breaking new ground.
Yes, we are. All right, Dr. Paul, you know what the gouge is in the Navy? That's legal insider information, or as I say, shit you need to know. Well, guess what? What do you need to get an American Express black card? An American Express black card. How about this, Dr. Paul? First of all, you cannot get it. You must be invited. You cannot apply for it at all. No matter who you are, no matter what you have, you cannot apply for a black card. It needs to be extended to you. And if they do ask you to get a black card, the initiation fee is $10,000 and the cost is $5,000 a year. But how do you get there? Well, it used to be said that you had to spend between $250,000 and $1 million a year. That is not true anymore. It's now a $500,000 to $2 million a year. But what's better than that, it can't be on business. You have to spend between $500,000 and $2 million a year on luxury. That means airplane tickets, hotels, food, dining, not paying your business bills with it. Dr. Paul, do you have a black card?
No, I do not have a black card. I get plenty of cards. That's a high fee. But I guess they base it on exclusivity. So you approve some people, you deny others to make it look special. Uh, but I'm thinking, why do you have to have a black card? They got all these platinum and this and that and da 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 da.
Well, I have a platinum card, I'll be honest with you, and it cost $1,000 a year, which I thought was ridiculous, but my kids had one, and I felt stupid not having one. But the truth is, with that $1,000, American Express actually gives you back 200 in hotel. They give you like 200 in Uber. They actually give you things that can add up to about $800-900. Like Katrina is on Soul Cycle. They pay her monthly fee now, so we don't have to pay that.
Okay.
But I think a black card is for status only, just so you can sit it down. So what can a black card do? It has unlimited money behind it. You
So
can
I could buy that A6 behind you. Let's just say they were selling it.
If they were selling that A6, you could slap that black card down and get one.
Yeah, I paint up the radome. The paint's chipping in the front there. It's okay. It's outside.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Dr. Paul, I told you I went to Portugal, and I told you I also went to the most beautiful beach in the world. Number one. And the only reason I found out it was number one is we were doing research before I left to do good stories on the Wingman show, and it came up with the top beaches in the world. When I looked at number one, and I'll show these on the screen, the number one beach in the world is Praia da Felicia, and that's in Ojos de Agua, Portugal. And when I saw that, Dr. Paul, no kidding, and I'll show pictures of Katrina and I there. When I saw that, I made it my business to put that in the GPS, and we went to this beach. It's the number one beach in the world, and it was awesome. The number two beach in the world is Spiaggia del Canigli, and that's in Lampedusa, Italy. Lampedusa, Italy. Unbelievable blue waters and white sand set the scene of Spiaggia del Canigli. It's a peaceful beach, perfect for relaxing and soaking up the sun. The number three beach in the entire world, La Concha Beach, San Sebastian, Donostia, Spain. La Concha Beach is an iconic spot right in the city with a handy sandy shore of clear blue waters, a beautiful beach. The number four beach in the entire world is Kanapali Beach, and that's in Maui, Hawaii, which is Hawaii's gorgeous. And maybe that lady or person from Oakland can go visit this beach. She can go visit the fourth most beautiful beach in the world. And with its gentle waves, soft sand, and blue waters, you could easily spend a day relaxing at Kanapali Beach. Number five, Grace Bay Beach. Grace Bay Beach is in the Turks and Caicos. And Grace Bay Beach is a scenic spot with powdery white sand and blue waters. Relax on the shore, swim in the calm sea, and try some water sports there. Number six, Ansi Lazio in Praia Island, Seychelles. In the Seychelles, beautiful place, surrounded by greenery and rock formations. Anas Lazio is a dreamy beach with soft white sand and unbelievable blue waters. And the seventh beach, the seventh most beautiful beach in the whole world, is Manly Beach in Sydney, Australia. And Manly Beach is at the center of everything, literally just a quick ride from Sydney. And the reason we stopped at Manly Beach is because my man, Dr. Paul, was at Manly Beach. So I went to number 1 and Dr. Paul was at number 7. Tell me about Manly Beach, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, Manly Beach was cool. I was there one time. I was on a layover for 3 days. It was great. A little bit windy and cool because they've got kind of opposite seasons. When it's summertime in the U.S., it's cool down there. But it was just fantastic. I really liked it. Get away from it all. That's the first place I ever had gelato, believe it or not, which I guess is a European thing. It was fantastic. People were cool, and they liked a lot of frisbees there for some reason. Dogs and frisbees were very popular. But very beautiful beach. Very kind of windy, but there was a fair amount of surfing that was going on too. So it all makes sense. That's why I asked about the windiness of Portugal.
Well, now that you say that, we also went to Nazir, Portugal, which has the highest waves in the world, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100-foot waves have been recorded there. And we went there, and that's like a surfer's paradise. So, yes, it was windy in certain parts of Portugal. Well, this is the Wingman Show. And you know what we do here in the Wingman Show? We give wingmen, people who really take care of others, just like Dr. Paul takes care of me and I take care of Dr. Paul. We are out there to help others. And there is a wingman out there helping others. And Dr. Paul, why don't you tell us about the Wingman of the Week this week?
Sure. The Wingman of the Week this week goes out to an individual or group. The individual is U.S. Colonel Bob Balzano, and this group is called the Check Six Foundation. Check Six, this is an aviation-oriented group. The term Check Six is one that's used by fighter pilots as they talk about checking the six, is just as Commander Drew just said, checking behind the area of their wingman, checking you're directly behind you, which is very hard to see, maybe impossible to see, but it's easier for someone else to check six. So it's easier for everyone else checks behind their partner. Well, this is one that's really of support beyond measure. The Check Six Foundation supports veterans who are having a hard time and also children struggling with serious illnesses, very serious illnesses. And I was struck by a story I read about one Jeremiah Hawkins. Jeremiah Hawkins has some physical issues. And this Check Six Foundation, twice a year at Joint Air Force Base Andrews, outside Washington, D.C., they call it Andrews. It used to be Andrews Air Force Base. Then they call it Joint Base Andrews, probably because the Air Force and the Navy and other units are there. They will sponsor a child to be basically wingman for a day, really the wingman for life, become a wingman for life under their program. And they'll take a certain child and he'll get a personalized flight suit. He'll get a tour of a bunch of aircraft. They'll have his or her name put on the side of an airplane. Sometimes you'll have the name of the pilots of a squadron that'll be on the sides of airplanes. And the airplane behind you, I can see somebody's name is kind of scribbled on there. Well, they'll put their name on the side of an airplane.
Wow.
They'll give them a flight suit. They'll take them. They may not fly them in the airplane, but they may taxi around the plane. They'll take them to a flight simulator. They'll take them to the air traffic control tower. And I think one of the things they'll do is they'll have lunch on board Air Force Two, which is the airplane that the Vice President of the United States flies on. Air Force One is whatever the president is on. Air Force Two is for the vice president. But I think there's a 737 that the vice president's on, and that becomes Air Force Two, and they give him like a nice catered lunch. And it's a real nice plane. Many of these are children facing terminal illnesses that have an interest in aviation. All these people have an interest in aviation. And what they do is really touching. And there was a profile of a young man named Jeremiah Hawkins, who was one of the beneficiaries of that year's prize. And there's something that Colonel Bonzano said, and I'm going to read the quote here. And he's talking about Jeremiah Hawkins and kids in the similar situation. Quote, "This is incredibly important for the child and family to have this experience. It's about people networking with their military talent and resources, coming together to create a plan for a kid, almost like a joint operation. It's amazing to see agencies come together to host, make gifts, and really make the Pilot for a Day child feel special. These are all volunteers. They spend 90%, 98% of the money is in the charity itself. Only 2% for expenses. I made a contribution yesterday.
That's so
Online.
nice.
I didn't plan to. I just did it. I just did it. I do for all these other crazy things. Let me do it for something good.
That's because you're a wingman, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Dr. Paul, that's a wonderful wingman story. And Dr. Paul, whatever you and all of our listeners think is important, whatever you and all of our listeners, whatever you guys think is beautiful. And Dr. Paul, whatever you and all of the people who can hear and see me, whatever you think makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace, and we're glad to be back. And to all those who listen, like, and share our message, if you're looking on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up or a like. That helps the algorithm, helps tremendously, helps us spread the message. It's good to hear some good news and not the daily tragedies that bombard us. So we look forward to giving you more information in the future, and God bless you all.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth, and goodwill towards all men and women.